Welcome to the Miguel Sanchez universe, where I help you make your ideas reality. I'm your host, Miguel Sanchez, of course, and today I will be talking to you about why I started this podcast, why I do anything pretty much, but it all starts with why, right? Like, there was a good book I checked out years ago called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and he basically breaks down how people throughout history have been very successful. They start their journey understanding why they're doing it, right? So I highly recommend that book. That book took me down this whole journey, and while I read it, I really did not understand what my why was. I couldn't really figure it out. It took me years. Like, I thought it was one thing, then I thought it was another. Luckily, I was already in my why every day. Like, sometimes, if you have a job you don't like, or it's just something to make money, you probably are not in your why, right? You just have a paycheck, and you come home and you have to figure out your why, while you're dealing with your kids or whatever regular life gives you. So I was lucky enough to be in my why, working on mass ideation. I was working on innovative projects and stuff like that. So the first why I thought was innovation. I thought the reason I do things was innovation. I said I want to be just all the way in innovation, so that's my why. I want to innovate. But as I kept that one and kept thinking about the why, I realized it's not just innovation. Innovation is like a part of what I want to do. So, there's like a Simon Sinek class. That's another thing, man. You have to like invest in yourself. I spent money on myself figuring this stuff out. And that's money that you take away from your bills, from your company, and it's also time that you take away from making money. And it's an investment, and it sets you back, but it sets you back in a way that propels you forward, right? It's kind of like a bow and arrow. You got to pull it back before you can let it go, and it goes far. So I always look for ways of investing in myself and figuring stuff out. And then what I'm hoping I do here with this podcast is I start to give you some of the lessons I learned. And if you're interested in, doing the same route, you have the option. You understand it. Like, it took me a while to figure a lot of this stuff out. So what I want to do is make it easier for the next, person. So as I figured out, it wasn't just about innovation. It was about helping people create their ideas, right? So innovation is a part of that, right? Because most people's ideas, they believe at least that they're new. Like, oh, nobody thought of this. I'm the first person to ever think about this. And in the agency world, working on mass ideation, that is the case a lot of times, right? We're working with agencies. We're working with the most creative people in the world. And they do come up with crazy ideas. And, my company was set up to make those ideas happen, right? So, because that's what I did. When I was a freelancer or even an employee, I was creating technology projects for advertising, and I would always push the limit and create crazy new things. So my personal brand to these people was that, like, okay, we have this crazy idea. Let's reach out to Miguel. Let's reach out to that crazy guy in the Bronx. He can make it happen. And that stuck with me. People still to this day call me when they have a crazy idea and they're like, yeah, no, everybody says I can't do this. Can I? And a lot of times I say, if you have enough money, I'll put you on the moon. So, I love being in those Mission Impossible type projects. But that's not sustainable, right? That's not a great business model. So, I think a few years ago, I kind of got burnt out by that business model, even though I love it and I still do it. I'm involved in them right now as we speak. What I realized is there's a lot of people like me that come from communities of color that just don't know what they don't know. And I didn't know so many things that I learn every day running a business. So what I wanted to do was, my passion, my why is, I want to help as many people, especially people like me, make their ideas reality. So I decided, okay, what can I do to do that? The first step I thought about was, okay, I need to automate mass ideation. So because it is my primary source of income and I spend the most time on it, how am I going to invest in other stuff to figure out how to help more people without losing that business? So I had to figure out how to be more efficient within that business. So I took another course with this guy named Ari Mizell, which was about automating your business. And it was awesome. And I did it. And it worked. And it was so timely. It was so timely when I did that right after I finished that course, I put it into action and I made mass ideation a lot more autonomous. Like it didn't need me as much, and it didn't need a whole bunch of people either. So when I set that up, something interesting started to happen. People started asking me to speak more places, and then I even got asked by MIT to go visit Spain for like a week, in the middle of a huge project. So I had a huge project going on, and MIT reaches out for me to go to Spain to go see a huge innovation that they wanted me to help bring back to the Bronx. And I'll talk about that in maybe future podcasts. But I was only able to do that because I set those pieces up in place. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to go on that Spain trip, or I would have went and screwed over a client, and a very expensive client. So it kind of, the universe, this is why I call it the Miguel Sanchez universe, because I'm going to talk to you about like what's going on in my universe and how like the stars are aligning. And at the same time, I view it as, this is my realm. All these people that I deal with are like planets in my universe, and I want you to visit their planets. I want you to learn about them, and then maybe visit their planet, and learn about the projects they do, and maybe it'll motivate you to do your project, and maybe eventually you'll be a planet in my universe that I send people to. The idea is to motivate more people to create their own universes, and create their own content around what they're doing, because I believe it is the best way to promote what you're working on, because what it allows you to do is to tell your story. And a brand is nothing but a story. So whether you have a personal brand or a company brand, they're stories. So your company brand is the story of why you started that company. So mass ideation, the story of mass ideation is, I created it because I was a marginalized person in the advertising and technology world, where back when I was in it, they weren't even counting. So right now, the percentage of people in technology and advertising is like 5-10%, maybe a little more now. I haven't checked the stats, but it's very low. And back when I first started, I was always one of the only minorities. Like, there was one or two of us, anytime I worked anywhere. So I always thought, man, I want to create my own. I don't want to be, and it's not like I was treated bad all the time. There were certain times where I felt like I was treated in a way that was, lesser than. And it could have been because of my race, or just my skill level at the time, or my just timeline of my career, but I felt like I wanted to create my own company that was able to innovate, right? At the end of the day, another big part of why I did this was not only because I felt like there was limited room for growth in my company, in the companies I would work in, it was because when I was working in these companies, I would try to do innovative things, and it was like looked down upon. It was like, no, don't spend that extra day trying to make something that will be 100 times better. Just make the deadline. And I didn't want to be in that environment. I wanted to figure out a way out of that environment, and I thought creating my company, Mass Ideation, would do that. So that's why I started that. And then when you think about personal brands, a personal brand is your personal story. So my personal story is why I get speaking engagements and things like that, is because my story is one where I grew up in the Bronx in the 80s, which most people think was a war zone. Hip hop was being created, all this stuff, the crack era was in full effect. And I got a computer off a truck, and it changed my life. And I realized that technology is a way to change anybody's life. So that's my personal brand story. And, I plan to write books and speak at conferences more and create podcasts around those topics, right? So I believe creating content like this on a podcast and other places allows you to keep telling that story. And people buy brands. Like, if you haven't realized it, look at the clothes you're wearing right now. You can buy that same shirt for a lot less without a logo on it. You've paid who knows how much percent more, depending on what logo, just for that logo. And trust me, I understand what I'm talking about is anti what I do, because I work for these brands, and I get that just that logo creates a value that is probably not as valuable as we think it is. But at the end of the day, it is. We are paying it because there's a story behind it that we believe in, and we believe when you wear that logo, you're telling everyone who sees you in that logo a story about yourself. So if you associate yourself with winning and being the top, you're going to wear Nike. Right? Because Nike has created that brand that says we only associate with the best. So if you're wearing us, it's because you believe you are the best. So that's what brands do, right? And by creating your own brand and having people understand your brand, they'll want to associate with you and either your company or you personally. And I think everybody starting a company, everybody, whether it's a nonprofit, it's a startup, it's a clothing line, and anything, you need to have a personal brand and the company brand. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating my personal brand. I'm really starting this year, 2020. I'm going all in on my personal brand because I've went all in on mass ideation for many years. And I had a mentor one time tell me, why is your face nowhere for mass ideation? And this was a white guy. He was a mentor to me. He was one of my first mentors. And I was like, well, I just think it'll hurt my business because I don't think people are going to believe that I'm doing this. Like, if a white person comes to the Mass Ideation website and sees the brands that I've worked with and wants to hire my company, I think if they see a Puerto Rican guy from the Bronx, it's gonna be bad for business. And he said, what you don't understand is that's why they will hire you, because you are different and you have done what you've done. So it's intriguing. How the hell did this guy from the Bronx work with Chanel or Louis Vuitton? What the hell does he have? I want to have that, right? And it started to change the way I thought about it. And it definitely put me on this path of, okay, I need to put my face out there more. I can't hide behind the logo that I created for my company. People need to understand my story. Then it'll help sell my company more. And then when you see people like Gary Vaynerchuk and people like that, you see how it works. Gary Vaynerchuk will tell you himself, he doesn't even need to pitch companies. They come to him because of his personal brand. So I said, all right, I need to start doing the same thing. And that's what I'm doing now. And I'm having fun with it. And I think, everyone should do it. And I think right now, my next steps are to figure out how to create this podcast at least once a week. Hopefully I can do it more. Create more video content. Eventually shoot these podcasts somewhere where I can record the video and audio at the same time. So in a podcast, just like a radio show or a TV show, you can create areas where you can make money through advertising. I don't know if I'm going to keep this model up, but I just want to show people how to do it. So right now I'm going to cut to a potential ad slot. It may not always be an ad slot here because my podcast is not a million people yet. So there's going to be a break and there's going to be a slot where Anchor puts in an ad. And probably going to be an Anchor ad in the beginning because they're the only sponsor. But it'll put this ad in and then I make however much. I make 15. Right now the going rate is $15 per 1,000 views. So for every view I will make very little bit of money. But if there starts to be thousands and thousands of views, I'll make some money. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep ads in the podcast or not, but I want to do one here to show you how it works. So now a word from our sponsor. Okay, and we're back. So where do we go from here? When I created the name, the Miguel Sanchez universe, the idea it was the universe forever expands, right? It's forever expanding. And what I would like to do is I would like to have a way of expanding my universe. I'm not really sure how to do that right this second as I record this. I have a few ideas. One is creating a text messaging platform that allows people to text me and ask me questions or ask for help. Because part of the problem is people text me on my phone right now and it's already getting out of hand. I can't even keep up, right? And I haven't even started to do this really like I want to in the year. 2020 hasn't even started. I'm recording this and it's already out of hand. I can't keep up. Then there's MetaBronx. MetaBronx I created to help a lot of people. So when I created when I started realizing what my brand was, what my why was, I said, all right, how do I help more people? So I started helping people. And I created MetaBronx. MetaBronx is a nonprofit where we work with startup founders and we work with kids. We place kids in those startups. So how that helps everybody, because as a young person, it's hard to get experience, especially as a person of color. As a founder, it's hard to raise money, especially as a person of color or a woman. So what we did was we created a place where all that is solved, and it's called MetaBronx. Check it out, metabronx.com. There'll be a link in the bio and everything. And what I realized with MetaBronx is we just landed this partnership with Village Capital, and Village Capital gave us a platform to help more people. So we created this application process to bring in people that recognize the value of a Village Capital and a MetaBronx combination. We got 55 applications. And some people that said they would apply didn't even apply, and I'm going to help them too. But that's 55 companies that I plan on helping in the next year. Think about that it's already out of hand, right? And I already have multiple companies that I'm working with, and it's just crazy. I don't even know how I'm gonna do it. So I thought maybe there's a text messaging platform. I can create some type of online group, either a Facebook group or not something that's like a LinkedIn group, maybe something not connected to any specific social media platform, like a discuss forum. What is discuss? No, I forgot what it's called. Maybe it's discuss. But maybe we could, maybe if anybody has ideas that listen to this, has ideas, let me know. I don't know what's best, because I think with Facebook, not everybody's on Facebook. With LinkedIn, not everybody's on LinkedIn, even though they should be. If you are thinking about doing business at all and you're not on LinkedIn, you're just crazy. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think the easiest way is text messaging is the most passive, because everybody has a phone and anyone can text. And then how I help them after, I'll create some type of autonomous system in the back that connects dots that I have, and then my network. As my universe grows, I'll have more people to connect you with. So if you say, hey, I'm looking for whatever, I'll have someone in that I know already, or I've met because I've created this content that I could connect you with, that I trust. So I gotta figure out all that, because then, of course, how do you pay for it, right? Because anything you're doing that's taking time away from you spending it with your family, or just not doing anything, is costing you money. So how do you pay for it? And what I need to figure out is, okay, if I do this, how do I pay for it? And not sure if the podcast is going to make enough ad revenue to pay it. So there may need to be some type of fee structure, and I don't know. I need to figure it out. And this is the way you do it. This is how you figure stuff out. That's the steps. Figure out what you need to do, who you're trying to help, how you help them, and how you pay for it. That's an idea in a nutshell, right? So, that's what I'm figuring out this year on I call it the community side. My universe is my community. And then, at the same time, I plan to be creating. I want to write a book this year. I've been saying it for a lot of years, but I got to figure out how to do it in 2020. I definitely want to do more speaking engagements this year. I've been very passive with that. I just let them come to me. I want to be a little bit more proactive with that. Mass ideation, we have a few cool things coming down the pipeline that we are looking into, and maybe launching in January, as early as January, February the latest. Of course, working with cool clients, which we always do on the mass ideation side, and also partnering with up and coming startups is another thing mass ideation does now, and you'll learn more about that later. But the way I want to do that is first by creating content for my personal brand, because then I draw more people in that understand what I'm doing, and I draw them into whichever planet in my universe interests them, right? Not everybody's into everything. You may be more interested in real estate, so you're going to be interested in what I'm doing in February. You may be more interested in technology, so you're going to be very interested in what I'm doing with MetaBronx. You may be interested in fashion, so you'll be pretty interested in what we're doing with a company called Bronx Native. You may be interested in celebrity culture, so you may be interested in a company we're working with called 24/7 Paps. There's a bunch of things. And I'm going to bring you in, listen, and you can interact however you want. I'll try to put as much of this on all the social platforms as I can, and that's another huge endeavor. But another big thing I'm telling myself in 2020 is me first. So I've learned how to do all this stuff for brands and agencies and startups. I've done so many things myself, and then my company, I've learned so much more because I've been able to bring in people who are better than me. And I was a hacker, I was a designer, I was an animator, I've been in everything, right? But then when you create a company, you can bring in people to help you. So I've learned how to do a lot of things, but I only do them for other people. So in 2020, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I do it for myself first. So right now, even this podcast, I'm recording this by myself. I'm going to edit this by myself. I'm going to make the imagery. I'm going to make the social media content. I'm going to do everything by myself. Eventually, when there's money that I can pay for people, I will pay people to do it, but I'll have the structure down where it makes it easier for them to do it, so it's cheaper for me, right? Versus having someone come up with the whole structure for you, and that's going to just be more hours, so more money. So, but I do believe everyone should be on this path. I believe every person, whether you have a business or not, you should be telling your story. If not for customers, for future family members, right? Like, every single person is interesting. Everybody's life is interesting. But it takes the people with courage to tell their story, right? And it's tough. It's tough. Like, it's hard. It's hard to do. And maybe you omit the bad, but the bad makes it more interesting, right? And you know, you're gonna tell me you wouldn't want to hear your great grandmother's story right now? You wouldn't listen to her podcast? Of course you would. So why not create one? You know, it's just really the reason people won't do it is because maybe they feel embarrassed. But I feel like people need to get over that. Like, you know, there's this time of privacy and feeling embarrassed is changing. You know, social media and all these things are just bringing light to more things. So why be embarrassed? Just, you are you. Nobody else in this world is you. And people interact with you because you are you. And why not give them more of that? Like, I always think about this. I follow people on social media because I am interested in them. But most of what they post is not even about themselves. So it's interesting. And I remember seeing something one time that said, when you post a picture or video about yourself or with you in it, it's way more interacted with. And it just makes sense because people are following you for you. It's kind of like they're your friends in a way. So that's like being someone's friend but never seeing them or speaking to them. So, you know, in the beginning, I definitely was anti this, just like you are now. But I would see people doing it, and I'd be like, selfie culture. I hate that. And I was anti-selfie. Selfie, so it's such a, you know, such a like selfish thing, selfie, right? Like all about me. But what I realized is we all now get our own radio show, TV show, and now we have that, but we don't use it, right? We don't use it. And if someone came to you and said, look, I'm giving you a TV show, you would do it. If somebody came to you and said, I'm giving you a radio show, you would do it. But you won't do it unless someone came and gave it to you. Instead of now, there's these tools. There's Anchor, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's TikTok. There's all these things now where you have the ability to create your own show, your own channel, and tell the world your story. And people will be interested in it. You know, even if it's just your family members. And it's not going to be all your family members. I create this content right now for my sons. If anybody else listens to it, that's extra for me. One day I hope my sons listen to this and say, okay, 1, my dad did that. That's awesome. I didn't know that. 2, I want to do that. And he just explained how to do it. Maybe things will change in a few years, but the core principles of all this doesn't change. Business principles don't change. Industries change, technologies change, but the principles don't change. And then if I create more business for myself in the process, that's extra too. So at the end of the day, I believe I'm creating this show to show you how it's possible. Most of this stuff is very unplanned. I'm literally sitting in a room with a mic connected to my iPhone with my computer in front of me to make sure I talk about the key things I want to talk about, and then go from there. There are some technical things about creating a podcast, and in the description on my website, miguelsanchez.blog, I will have a breakdown of how to do it. In this show breakdown, I'm going to break down how I'm doing it with Anchor and what equipment and everything I'm using at this specific second. Of course, over time it's going to get better. So, maybe I'll change that page over time, but maybe right now I'll keep it as a historical archive of how easy it is to do. Like, it's literally, I have an iPhone, which of course is expensive, but most people have iPhones right now. I have a $20 mic and connector, $20 total right now, that are connected to my phone, that I'm using Apple memos in the Apple app store, or it just comes with the phone, and that's where I'm recording my audio. You can literally upload this audio to Anchor. Anchor will even put background music for you, and you upload your podcast. Done. If you want to create segments, that's a little harder, but you could do that too, and I'll have a video on how to do that. Segments for advertising, easy to do. There's really no excuse. The only excuse is you are embarrassed. And again, you're embarrassed for right now, but again, imagine if you could listen to the story of your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother right now. You are somebody's great-great-great-great-grandmother, grandfather. Your story should be told. And I'll just leave it at that, and hope you come back and listen to more of my show, the Miguel Sanchez Universe.